semi-legible for you. So there we go.
You could use different colored chalk for shading.
What?
You could use different colored chalk for shading.
We do with pink chalk. Which makes the Roman Empire sort of weirdly effeminate, but we'll do it. So a couple of things. First of all, this is a history lecture. The really popular thing in history right now is twofold. First of all, to make everything relevant in terms of the present, and second of all, to explain away everything in terms of cause and effect, which I am not going to do for all of you in either case, because my view is that history is really, really complicated, and what happened in the past is not always relevant or even sort of relevant to our situations today, but it is very interesting. So what I'm going to give you is basically a story of something that happened about 1,700 years ago now. It was really cool. Lots of people died. And it was an exciting time to be alive, although not necessarily a good one. And we're just going to kind of deal with that. So, another thing. If you're interested in sources for the stuff I say in this talk, it comes from a couple of places. Roman history is really difficult because most of the historians that come down to us are from a very specific group of people, namely the senatorial class, which is sort of like if all of the histories we had of the French Revolution were written by French aristocrats. So we get a really weird, really biased view, which is why you hear stories about like Caligula making his horse consul, which probably didn't happen. But the Romans were very attuned to the uses of propaganda and were very interested in, after an emperor died, sort of doing everything they possibly could to blacken his name. They even had this thing called the Damnatio Memoriae, which was basically censoring all reference to the emperor's reign and his acts after his death. So there's a lot of bias in the stuff that comes out of the 3rd century in particular, because the 3rd century, the 2nd century we have historians like Suetonius for the early part of the century. 1st century we have Tacitus, whom some of you have probably heard of. 3rd century we don't really have any famous historians. What we do have is something called the Historia Augusta, which is sort of the 3rd century equivalent of a tabloid book. It is riddled with lies, it says many ridiculous things, and we basically can't use it. So most of what we get is from archaeology and the study of coins. The stuff that I am talking about, I mostly get from M. Carey's History of Rome, which was written in like the 50s and is very good and British and snarky. And so that's what I'm basing my stuff off of. Let me go to my map. Where's my map? Okay, so this is the Roman Empire in about, this is probably about like 180. So the Rome starts out here, just the Italian peninsula. It expands through a series of wars in the 2nd and 1st centuries BC. They defeat Carthage in 146, destroy Carthage, sow the earth with salt, all that. Greece is conquered in 168 BC. All of this stuff happens in the 1st century. And the reason I'm taking you back all this far is because the stuff that happens in the 3rd century is really a result of a 2 or 3 century long effort to reform the Roman system of government. So the Romans' original system of government is that there's the Roman Senate and the tribunes, which are the government of the plebs. Those are directly elected. The Senate is not directly elected. It's just rich people, essentially. So the Senate and the tribunes, sort of like in the English Constitution, never really worked out what exactly the distribution of power is going to be. So sometimes the tribunes are overriding the Senate, sometimes the Senate is running roughshod over the plebs, problems ensue. But none of this really comes to a head until the end of the 2nd century BC with the Cimbrian War. The Cimbrian War, which is in 113, these two groups of, one of them was probably Celtic, the other was probably Germanic in origin, but the Cimbrian, the Teutonians, who are from the Jutland Peninsula of Denmark, which is north of there, suddenly attack a Roman ally, the Turisci, in the Bohemia area. So the Romans send a consul to deal with it, a man whose name I believe is Scipio. and oh, I'm sorry, it's Gnaeus Pepricius Carbo. So Carbo goes to where the Cimbri and the Tunes are, and he says, "You have to retreat. You're attacking your allies. That's not cool." And the Cimbri say, "Fine." You know, they're scared of the Romans. The Romans have killed everyone in the southern Germany for the past several centuries, so they're more than willing to retreat. Carbo decides that this isn't good enough because Carbo needs a Roman to celebrate a triumph, and he wants to possibly get the consulship another couple of times. So he lays an ambush for the Cimbri, which the Cimbri become aware of, and counter-ambush his army at the Battle of Norea, which is in 112 BC. And after that, the Cimbri kind of run roughshod all over the western half of the Roman Empire. Norea, Carbo gets away with some of his army, but lots and lots of Roman soldiers die. So the Romans, after about 7 years, are able to get together another army, which they send against the Cimbri and the Teutones in the region of southern Gaul. And at this battle, which is the Battle of Arosio in 105, this is hilarious, actually. So once again, the Cimbri agree to enter into negotiations with the Romans, particularly with the Roman consul, whose name is Maximus. So Maximus is talking with the Cimbri. Maximus's co-commander, the proconsul, whose name is Scipio, decides that negotiations are once again a bad thing because he has to win personal glory. So he, who is commanding the army's left flank, decides to attack the Cimbri while the Cimbri are still in negotiations with the army's right flank. The Cimbri defeat and slaughter them en masse. The right flank of the Roman army, which has no idea what is going on, that attempts to attack itself, is also defeated and killed, and the Romans lose the better part of 2 armies. This is a huge problem because it now means that Italy itself is undefended. So the way that the Roman military works is that it is the originator of the concept of the citizen soldier, which is that you are a dude, you're a Roman guy, you fight in the Roman army. When a problem arises, the Romans are like, okay, we need you. You have to be a member of a certain social class. Specifically, I believe you have to be in the top 5th of like the Roman social system. You have to provide your own weapons, and you have to have a certain amount of land, because of course whether or not you own enough land is an important indicator of whether or not you'll be able to fight. So this works out okay when the Romans are only fighting brief wars and things are going well, but it doesn't work out okay when they've lost 3 armies in 7 years. Simultaneously while this is happening, lest I forget, the client king of Numidia, which is the Romans were really big on client kingdoms, which is when they didn't feel like conquering an area, they just put it under the control of someone who was essentially their puppet. Well, one of their client kings in Numidia decides to stop being a puppet, rises up against the Roman Republic, also defeats lots of troops that are sent against him. Things go really badly. So into the scene arrives this fellow by the name of Gaius Marius. Marius he's probably like 50 at about this point. He is a successful general. He has a proven track record beating up Greeks and other, effeminate peoples. And he is put by I actually read somewhere that the Senate didn't want to appoint him and the tribunes overruled the Senate in appointing him to command against Jugurtha and Numidia. I don't know if that's true or not. But the people really like him. He has a proven track record. He's put in command of the army. And so what Marius does is Marius decides to make the problems of the Roman military go away. How does he do this? He professionalizes the Roman military. He takes away the land requirements. Instead of serving only when a crisis arises, you serve in the army for anywhere from 20 to 25 years. You receive regular pay at the end of a campaign. You're supposed to get some land, which you can settle down with your nice Roman children, and things go well for you. He also allows Roman allies. Keep in mind, actual Roman territory is like the city of Rome and the area immediately around the city of Rome. All of these are the socii, which are the Roman allies in Italy. They do not enjoy Roman citizenship. They do not have the same rights as the Romans themselves. Only Romans vote in Roman elections. These guys are just like on the same team because you want to be on the same team as Rome. Also, keep in mind, these are not the boundaries of the Roman Empire during this time. The boundaries of the Roman Empire are like that, here, that. They don't control Egypt, they don't control Far East. I should probably have not drawn the boundaries so thickly, but they don't control Gaul. Don't get confused. But they will soon. So Marius, with this new professionalized army, is able to defeat the Cimbri and the Teutones in 102 and 101 respectively. He does this like the Cimbri are here or something, and the Teutones are here. Beats them, kills them, wipes them out, 300,000